Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I'm bringing you around from the Sheffield League Challenge that happened in October 2015. We're in the standard format, so that means all the sets from X and Y to Ancient Origins. Huge thank to Sheffield PokerSock who put on this lovely tournament, not to the silly woman at the front desk who literally ignored me halfway through a sentence to speak to someone on the phone because they're more important. Thank you very much to Sheffield PokerSock for running this tournament, for letting me record, and make sure you check out all of the rounds from this lovely tournament. Links will be in the description. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so on round one, round two, I should say, we're showing you a lovely game here between Kyle Guest on the right, he's a senior, and a lovely chap called Will on the left, who is a junior. Now, you might be thinking, game between a junior and a senior, I ain't watching none of that rubbish. Well, Kyle, I believe, has already qualified for Worlds this year. He just, at this stage, is he going to make 22 and top 22 get a paid invite? And spoiler alert, he's going to. And Will on the left, he's a very good junior. I, like a lot of you, I'm a little bit skeptical at times. I know people don't want to see juniors and seniors so much. So I'm not just putting any old seniors and juniors on stream. I'm picking people who I know are going to be good players, good decks, all that good stuff. So what we have is we've got Kyle on the right. He is going to be playing Gengar Wobbuffet. Can't remember if there are any bats in here. We'll see as we go along. And on the left, William is going to be playing a Manectric style deck. Interesting to know. Oh, and actually, as we get going here, we see an Ultra Ball coming down, getting rid of a Level Ball and an AZ. And I was going to say, presumably he's going for a Gengar straight away there, and he's going to want to get an energy down straight away on that Gengar, getting ready for next turn. This is a lesser seen deck that we don't see very often, but it's a fun little deck. Now he's popped down the Dimension Valley. Not something I would usually do on turn one because you don't want to get it countered by your opponent. But of course, he's gone and played a Sycamore. And if you're going to play a Sycamore, you might as well put the Stadium down. Generally, you want to put the Stadium down as late as you can get away with so that your opponent puts the Stadium down first, you counter it and win the Stadium War. He's got free, and he's got the energy on the Gengar. He's got the Wobbuffet in the active, and he's got free Robo Subs down. So you see there that the Rough Seas does come down and get rid of that Dimension Valley, and assuming they both play four stadiums, which they may well do, that does put William ahead in the Stadium War. So we see Hooper come down. Now, of course, Hooper does have an ability, but remember, Wobbuffet only turns off abilities from non-psychic Pokemon. Hooper, being psychic, can just go ahead and play through that. Now, he's got a Manectric with Spirit Link. He's got 3 more Manectric down. It is going to be a barrage of Manectric. And why not, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen? Because those Robo-Subs are going to be an absolute pain. If William can use Manectric's overrun attack, doing 20 to the active, 20 to the bench a few times, he's going to be able to get rid of those Robo-Subs rather than having to attack into them turn after turn. Because every time you kill a Robo-Sub, it's a turn you're not really taking any prizes. So we see Regice and Water Energy there. That's going to be important as we go through the game, because he's going to want to use the Regice there to try and get rid of the Gengar. Regice, remember, gets rid of all effects of attacks, including damage. So Gengar's attack does damage and poison. Neither of those is actually going to get through and hit the Regice. So we see 20 to the active Wobbuffet and 20 to the Gengar there, which is pretty important. He's not going for the Robo-Sub straight away. Oh, we do see that he has got the bats in the deck. I thought he did. As he plays a VS Seeker to get his Sycamore back. He just wants to get rid of the Gengar as soon as he can. So, until he has to face down the Robo-Subs, it's not the worst idea ever to not do so. Now, Gengar, remember, for 1 energy, colourless, so it can be free with a Dimension Valley down. You get to place 3 damage counters. And Dark Corridor, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and you switch it to the bench, and you do 60 damage. But Kyle, he hasn't got the Wobbuffet out the active, and he hasn't got a Dimension Valley or a third energy. Now, this is a really good start from William here. He Mega Evolves, and he's got 2 energy on there, and he gets rid of a Rough Seas, Escape Rope, and an energy, and he's drawing into a whole bunch of what looks like vaguely useful stuff. Now, what this means is he's going to get the KO on the Wobbuffet this turn. He is going to be able to attach 2 energy to the benched, and he's going to be rolling. Those Rough Seas are going to become in very handy, and you'll see he actually had to get rid of one a little while ago, which is unfortunate, but, you know, these things happen. And there we go, straight away, putting the energy on the Regice. Kyle's main attacker here is going to be the Gengar. So if he attacks into the Regice, it does approximately nothing. It won't even do the poison. He will switch to the bench because that is not an effect done to the Regice. So here we see the muscle bands come down on both the Gengars, and Kyle here, he's going to be searching, ideally here, he doesn't really want the third energy as much as he wants the Dimension Valley, because he's going to do 60 damage here, plus poisoning the Manectric, which will do 70 in total. But remember that Mega Manectric's got a free retreat. William can just free retreat the Manectric and leave it sitting on the bench and heal it with the Rough Seas, while he puts up a Regice, which is going to be essentially immune to the Gengar. And he's got a double colourless in hand, so he's going to be able to get attacking with that Regice next turn. I'm not sure exactly what they're confused about here. I'm afraid I can't hear it right now. I've turned off the audio because it's incredibly distracting trying to listen to the audio of the game while you're commentating. So here he is doing the attack. He's going to do 60 damage plus the 10 for poison. He's going to pop the Robo Sub into the active. So as I said, what William... Oh, sorry, it's going to do 80 plus the 10 because he's got the muscle band on. What William can do here is just attach the double colourless to the Regice as he's doing, free retreat the Manectric, stick it down to 60 damage, and KO the Robo-Sub with the Regice. Now, Kyle has options for taking down the Regice. He can use his bats and he can use his Wobbuffet, but he's got a full bench right now, and all he's got is a single Zubat, Robo-Subs that aren't going to be attacking, Gengars that can't hurt the Regice, and we see a heads there, which means he's getting 7 cards from Bert, which he got from his VS Seeker. So, William's actually in a pretty good place right now. He's going to be able to retreat the Manectric. Gengar doesn't do that much damage to Manectric. It's going to take, really 3 hits to kill, and that's really not a great tactic. And we see the Spirit Link down in the second Mega. It's not a great tactic when Rough Seas is there allowing you to heal. So Kyle is going to want to counter that Rough Seas as soon as possible. Now, we've already seen, I believe, Kyle's gone through 1 Dimension Valley and William's gone through 2 Rough Seas. The stadiums are going to be really, really important in this game. Now, I suppose William could leave the Manectric up there. Oh, this is a decent play. Of course, it's not going to make any difference for Kyle whatsoever. In fact, I don't know. It gets a card out of his hand, I suppose. I'm not a huge fan of that play because he could have free retreated the Manectric because it's got free retreat, and Kyle was always going to send up a Robo-Sub anyway. But other than that, William's playing this exactly right. What's Kyle going to do in terms of attacking here? Unless he's got a Lysandre, but even if he does... Actually, he could grab the Hooper, and I believe the Hooper, I can't remember, I think it might be weak to Psychic. Let me double check that while I'm here. Now, if he's got a Lysandre for the Hooper, that's going to be big, and it's going to mean that Escape Rope really was needed. And yes, it is weak to Psychic, which means Gengar can actually do a lot of damage to that Hooper. He can actually one-hit KO the Hooper if he's got a Lysandre. It must not have had one in the discard pile there because that would have been an easy one-hit KO. With the muscle band, he's going to be able to do that. Now, we did see the Crobat come down, put 2 damage on the Regice, and really what we're going to see from Kyle here, I mean, it might even have been a better plan to put the Golbat in the active here. Now remember, Golbat's got free retreat, so if he didn't have, he could have just retreated into the Gengar. So after the Robo-Sub got killed, it would have been a better idea for Kyle to put the Zubat in the active, knowing he was going to evolve it, assuming he didn't top deck. It might have been a better idea to put the Zubat in the active, evolve into the Golbat, and then he's got options, because really the best idea here would be to start attacking with that Regice, to start attacking the Regice with the... I suppose no, because Golbat's only got 70 HP, so he would get one hit KO'd there. So I suppose he can't really start attacking the Regice until he gets a Crobat. It's going to be a really awkward situation here, because what does Kyle actually attack with? All he can attack with is the bats, but if he attacks with a Crobat, like I said, he's just going to get instantly one hit KO'd back. And the Golbat does 30 and gets 2 hit KO'd, so... Now, if he can hit the Super Scoop up there, then he can drop another Golbat, which will be useful at least. What he's going to need to do is he's going to need to take down that Regice. And, when he gets the heads... he's picking up the Shaman. So he's playing down an Ultra Ball there. He gets rid of the Lysandre. I don't know about this play because... ideally, what he needs to do... is he needs to get rid of... Because remember, without a Dimension Valley out, a lot of this damage can be healed off the Regice next turn anyway. And that's key. That's absolutely crucial. Now that Shaman's absolutely worth it. What he really wants to do is just Lysandre stuff off the bench, including the Hoop, and just take easy prizes. Try and win the Stadium War, and then take out the Regice with the bats while he takes down the Manectrics. It's not a great plan. He's very much, he's not in the driver's seat here, but, what else is he going to do? He could drop the second Crobat down here. And he's using the attack. Remember, the attack does nothing, doesn't poison. That I don't believe they should be adding the poison here. Let me just double check the wording of the card. I think... Let me just double check before let me just read up on the cards and I'll double check. Because Gengar's attack says... Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. Now, when you switch the Pokemon, that is not done to the Regice. And we get another Rough Seas out. That is absolutely huge. Now, Regice reads, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. So the Regice shouldn't be poisoned. The Regice blocks every part of the attack, including the poison. It doesn't stop Gengar going to the bench. Now we do see this is going to get the one-hit KO on the Hooper here. It doesn't block the Gengar going to the bench because that is an effect on Gengar because Gengar is switching. It's not an effect on the Regice. However... and he's letting him do that after the turn. That was very nice of him. Just letting him do that after the fact. The Regice shouldn't have been poisoned there. Regice prevents all effects done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. That's the damage and everything else, including the poison. So a slight mishap from the players there. And here's interesting. He's putting the... I don't know, actually. Because he's just feeding him 2 prizes. If it wasn't for the Manectric deck, he could then, put the Shaman back to his hand to prevent the easy prizes. Using Sky Return, I think it's called. But now he's just giving up 2 prizes. We see a Flash Energy going down there, so we've got 2 Mega Manectrics and a Teammates coming down. Now, we've known he's had that in his hand for a couple of turns, but obviously Kyle didn't know that. This is going to be big. He gets to search for whatever he wants. And now you don't have to show with Teammates. There's no rule that you can't show. But remember, with Teammates, you're grabbing any 2 cards you like. So, because it's any 2 cards, all you have to do is prove to your opponent you've taken 2 cards. Of course, he's probably going to play the Battle Compressor right away, so it makes really no real difference if you show them or not. And on the rare occasion, I don't really play teammates very often, but certainly I've played Computer Search on a number of occasions and then gone, yeah, I've just got this. I know you're not supposed to because it gives away information and it, does give your opponent some information, but, I mean, sorry if you were looking for something a bit more in-depth there. So, William very much in the driving seat here. Now, he is actually a prize behind. Oh, no, he was a prize behind. He's now not a prize behind. He does 220 damage to that Shaman. He actually gets a one-hit KO, ignoring the weakness, although as we know that, he does hit for the weakness as well. And he's putting Kyle in an awkward position. And you're starting to think here, what can Kyle do? I mean, you would start thinking at this stage of the game, well, maybe Kyle should scoop the game, go to game 2, see if he can win games 2 and 3 to pull out the win. But you're thinking, well, Kyle's best chance here seems to be grabbing a quick win from a good setup or from William drawing dead. So maybe his best plan is to drag this one out, try and steal game 2, and essentially play for the draw, because I don't know, and you see his deck's getting very, very thin there. I don't know how Kyle wins this game, really. He needs to keep the Dimension Valley out. That's absolutely key. If he can keep the Dimension Valley out and pick away at the Manectrics while sticking up, a whole bunch of Robo-Subs, maybe. But he's doing a bit less damage than, he's doing, with a Muscle Band, 90 damage per turn. Kyle's doing 110. Kyle's got more HP. William's doing 110. William's got more HP and William's healing. So when you're doing more damage on higher HP Pokemon and you're healing, gives you a little bit of a leg up. Now the Robo-Subs can start to turn it in Kyle's favour, but even then you're asking an awful lot. Now he's getting something going here. It's not amazing, but he's getting something going, and that's fairly crucial. He's getting some attacks off. The problem is, what's he going to move into? Now, have we seen 3? I think we've seen 3 Robo-Subs. So maybe there's one more. If he puts his Bats active, well, that's an instant free KO for William. And if he switches between the Gengars, William's getting easy 2-hit KOs. Kyle is not getting 2-hit KOs. With Muscle Bands and the poison damage, he's getting 2-hit KOs on the non-Megas. But even if he hits the non-Mega, they've got a retreat cost of 1. William can just retreat. So it's looking very, very awkward for Kyle here. Now, we see another Regice from William. It might be worth his while to start getting that one powered up, although he's already got one on the bench. He could just be attacking with the Regice here. Now, he might not be attacking with the Regice because he's scared of the poison, which, as we've already discussed, it doesn't work. Resistance Blizzard from Regice prevents all effects of attacks, including damage. All effects includes the poison. So, I'm not 100% sure why he's going for the poison, or he's not going for the Regice here. Maybe he just thinks, well, hang on a second, I've got this game sewn up. I don't need to go for the Regice because, well, he might actually be retreating into the Regice now. Yeah, I was going to say. He probably doesn't need the Regice. He's winning the prize race. But putting up the Regice is just, it's an easier route. He's 2-hit KOing with the Mega Manectric. He's 2-hit KOing with the Regice. The difference is the Regice isn't being hit in retaliation. So, although he's pretty much got this game sewn up regardless, Regice is still the better attacker. So it's absolutely the one that he should use. So he does 90 damage here, and, what does Kyle do? He can't hit the Regice. Now, he can... Looks like that benched Mega Manectric's got 120 damage on. So he can use Lysandre, if he's got one, to pull up the Mega Manectric and KO it. That would help. But all that Kyle needs to do here is attack the Gengar one more time with the Regice, and then just KO one of those bats on the bench, and that'll give him the win. And it looks like you might even have a Lysandre in hand to make sure he can get that done. Now, we do see a Super Scoop up from Kyle. That could help him, and he really, play that now. Try and get the... Oh, no, he's already dropped the goal back, but he can drop the Crobat next turn. He's got the Regice on 60, but you're going to need 2 more Crobat drops just to get the KO on the Regice. And that is assuming that Kyle never gets into a situation where he can get another Rough Seas out, which, you know, as we've seen, he seems to be playing a fair few Rough Seas. Oh, we got the poison going back on. Let this be a lesson to you, ladies and gentlemen. I know, you know, they're juniors, as a junior and a senior, they're newer players, but read the cards carefully. Regice prevents all effects of attacks, including damage. The poison is an effect of the attack done by a Pokemon EX. It doesn't go on. Gengar switches to the bench because that's an effect on Gengar. Now we see Lysandre coming down, and this is wonderful because he gets to KO the Gengar. He's taking the poison damage, which is sad. But, you know, it's a very small tournament. There are only about, 20, 25 players. We only had kind of one judge wandering around. He wasn't table judging, so these things are easily missed. When a mistake is made by both players, it's easy to make. Now, it looks like he's reading the card, so he's hopefully going to realise that the poison doesn't do anything. But maybe not. Oh, no, now they are asking a judge. It looks like they're asking a judge about how Gengar's attack works with the Regice, and the judge should be telling them that the poison doesn't work. So we should see the poison counter coming off and 20 damage being removed. No, 30 damage being removed. Because he should be on 50, 20 from the Crobat drop and 20 from the Golbat drop and 30 from the Crobat drop. Remember, he had 10 on from poison previously, which wasn't healed off with Rough Seas. So he should be on 30. And I don't know what's going on here. They've just called... And I mean, if I'm wrong, put it in the comments. I'm certain I'm not wrong. In fact, if I am wrong, I'll realise first and stick it in the comments myself. But they just called a judge over. They looked at Regice, they looked at Gengar, and the poison damage is still going on. That is bad judging, ladies and gentlemen. Regice's attack literally reads, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. So if you do 60 damage plus poison, then you do 60 damage plus the effect, which is poison. Poison is an effect of the attack. It doesn't prevent Gengar going to the bench, because that is an effect done to Gengar, not an effect done to Regice. But the poison is absolutely an effect done to Regice. I'm disappointed in the judging staff. The good news is it hasn't affected the outcome of the game. William has won there. And other than that brief snafu with the ruling there, that was a good game. You know, William did what he needed to do. William used the Mega Manectric to get the Regice going. William put the Regice up when he should put the Regice up. He retreated the Manectric and healed them with Rough Seas. It was a pretty well-played game by both people. Now, Kyle, the chap on the right, he's been asking me, because I've recorded a whole bunch of events. Look back through my YouTube, I assure you they're all there. And Kyle's been asking for a little while, oh, can I be on stream? Can I be on stream? And the reason was he'd been on stream twice and he'd lost both times. And rather than be one of those people who says, I'm cursed on stream, I'm never going on stream, Kyle wanted to go on stream to... essentially to break the curse, to prove he could win on stream, which, how awesomely positive is that attitude? How brilliant is that attitude from a senior? Not, oh, I never win on stream, but instead going, I'm going to prove I can win on stream. That's awesome. And I've told him for a couple of tournaments now, bring a good deck, get in a good game against a good player, and I'll happily put you on stream. High level junior, while Kyle's playing a good deck, both players win games round one. We're on, ladies and gentlemen. We are on. So that's how they ended up on stream, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit proud of myself for making the decision. Now, we have a mulligan from Kyle. By the way, already, and don't get me wrong, I love Athena Games down in Norwich. I love that they let me record. But that whole kind of, go back and watch those videos if you haven't. Some of those games were interesting, but they weren't the most competitive. We've already seen a surprisingly close Rayquaza versus Giratina. Round 1, go back and watch it, link in the comments, link in the description. And now we're seeing a really quite interesting game between a lesser played deck, a more popular deck, and, you know, a really competitive, I believe William's a junior. So William takes his mulligan there. Kyle gets to go first, and he starts with a Zubat. We see the muscle band going on. Remember, Zubat can hit 10 damage, so that could be 30. Oh, not a great start because he had to get rid of a muscle band there. Maybe 2 muscle bands. That looks like 2 muscle bands in the background. It's weird how the muscle band background looks a lot like the Looney Tunes background. Never noticed that before. But he gets a Robo-Sub down, and he's got a Zubat, and he's got the Gengar, and he's got the Dimension Valley, and he's got the Energy. Now, I don't know if William's actually playing any Shaman, which is not all that you know, not it does happen sometimes. Oh, and he gets rid of the Dimension Valley right away. That's awesome. If they're both playing 4 stadiums, and then this is just a general rule to go by, and here we see another... We see a Hooper coming down here just to get 2 Manectric. Oh, no, because he is playing Shaman. We saw it in the previous game. Sorry. We get 2 Manectric and a Shaman coming down here. I don't know if you did see in the previous game. Either way, he's gone and got a Shaman. And, of course, now you'll see in the previous game he didn't get a Shaman because there was a Wobbuffet active. Here, he is going for the Shaman. There is no Wobbuffet. And this is a really good thing from Kyle here. Now, the Wobbuffet's not going to do very much... Ooh, has he got a muscle band? Now remember, that's the other Zubat, the one we used to use, had free retreat but only 40 HP, whereas this one's got 50 HP. So you're not going to get the KO just with an electric energy, or indeed a double colorless. You're going to need a muscle band as well. So if he's got a muscle band energy here, he's going to be all right. Now here comes the Shaman. Slightly surprised he didn't put the double colourless energy down, but then again, the double colourless he only really needs for Regice, and there we go, he wants to be attacking with the Manectric. So, risky getting rid of your double colourless, but it paid off quite nicely, to be honest. So there comes the Trainer's Mail. He's going to grab himself an Ultra Ball. He might want another Manectric, but certainly next turn he's going to want to go get himself a Mega Manectric. And, oh no, he just... Is he playing the Ultra Ball? He's playing very fast. Oh no, he's gone straight. He's played the Ultra Ball and gone for the Shaman. This is what I like about watching seniors and juniors. They don't sit there and muck about like Masters do. You know, Masters sit there and think for 5 minutes and then do what they were going to do anyway. You know, seniors and juniors, they get their move on when they play, and this makes me happy. Does sometimes add a bit of difficulty to the commentating, but I suppose that will just make me better at my craft. So, and we see another a Trainer's Mail coming down here. Now, ideally, he would be getting a Muscle Band, but a Spirit Link. Oh, excuse me, I'm recording this 11 o'clock at night, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit tired. That was me yawning. I do apologise. Actually, no, I don't. I'm allowed to yawn occasionally. I'm a man, men yawn. He's got himself a Spirit Link, which is good. It means he can evolve without losing without ending his turn next time. Now, what I really like about the overrun play there, and the Stadium War has started, that Zubat's now got 20 HP left, which means it will be KO'd on the bench with the... Okay, now it won't be. It would have been KO'd from the residual damage. The 20 bench damage that Overrun does would have been enough to KO that Zubat on the bench and get a cheeky extra prize. He could even have used Lysandra and actually killed both Zubats in one go. So we see a Sycamore coming down from Kyle here. He's got the Dimension Valley. Golbat's got free retreat, and he's got 2 energy on the... Gengar. Now he's going to want a Muscle Band here, but we saw that 3 went down turn 1, so he might not have any left. And he's got the attack here, because the Dimension Valley brings the attack cost down to 2. Now, he's going to put Manectric on 70, which will go up to 80 at the end of Kyle's turn, which will then go up to 140 from a second attack, and then 150 at the end of William's turn, then 150 at the end of Kyle's turn. So, without the Muscle Band, you don't two-hit KO the Manectric. And of course, sooner or later, we've seen there's a lot of rough seas in play from William. Now here, the escape rope is a really good play, because about the only thing you don't want active is that Robo Sub. Now, what does Kyle do here? He can put the Gengar active, but you don't want that to get a free hit. You don't want William to get a free hit on it. The Golbat or the Zubat being put up gets KO'd, so you kind of have to put the Wobbuffet into the active, but the only abilities that William is going to be using in this game are on the Shaman. So the Wobbuffet isn't really doing much to William, but it can be a real pain in the neck trying to get Wobbuffet out the active. Now remember, we can see here that Kyle is playing Mystery Energy, which reduces the retreat cost by 2, and it will actually give Wobbuffet free retreat. But he's still got to find a Mystery Energy or a Super Scoop Up. And even if he uses a Super Scoop Up to get the Wobbuffet out of the active, he doesn't want to use Super Scoop Up on Wobbuffet. He wants to use Super Scoop Up on a Shaman or on a Crobat, so he can be reusing those bats. He doesn't want to be using it as a switch. So we get the Mega coming down here. It doesn't look like he's got a Rough Seas yet. But he doesn't need the Rough Seas yet, because it's on the bench. And in this game, William can afford to give up a couple of prizes. Now, he's got the Hooper on the bench again, which is unfortunate, because we've already seen that Kyle can take easy prizes off that, but only if he's got a Muscle Band. And Kyle was very unlucky starting 3 Muscle Bands and a Sycamore. I mean, we've all been there. We've all started with hands, on this week's podcast, week 170, I tell you about my first regionals of the season, where both my opponent had to get rid of 2 Vespiquen and his Sacred Ash on turn 1. And right as I'm sitting there commentating, I have to get rid of both my Aromatisse and my Sacred Ash on turn 1. And we were both kind of screwed by our early turn Sycamores. Now, he does get a double colourless, does Kyle, on the Wobbuffet. That's going to give him the ability to retreat it. But it's a little bit of a pain in the neck. Oh, I disagree with that Golbat drop. I always get those two confused. And the reason is, Rough Seas is going to allow, as soon as that Rough Seas comes down, and it's going to come down, William's going to be able to just heal that damage right off of Manectric. Regice, on the other hand, is going to start becoming a really big problem for Kyle sooner rather than later, judging by the previous game. And he needs to take that Regice down. And he needs to take the Regice down using the bats. So he really needs to put all of his damage on the Regice. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a second. Couldn't he do that? Can't he just heal off the Regice with Rough Seas? Yeah, he can. But, he needs to take down the Regice. Now, the other way Kyle can win here, if we look at William's bench, he's got a Hooper and 2 Shaman on the bench, and he doesn't seem to be playing AZ or Super Scoop Up. So what Kyle can actually do here is just play the long game and just try and Lysander for all of his prizes. In which case, he should have put the Golbat damage onto the Hooper, bringing Hooper down to 150 HP, which still wouldn't have been enough, but then one more bat drop, and he can actually get a one-hit KO with Gengar without playing the whole, Muscle Band game. So if I was Kyle here, I'd actually be concentrating my bat damage on the Shamans and the Hooper. Maybe I can get a cheeky KO on the Manectric, maybe I can't. But if I put the bat damage on the Shamans and the Hooper, 2 things are going to happen. Firstly, they can't be healed off with Rough Seas, and judging from the previous game, we should be expecting William to get a Rough Seas down and start healing that damage off. Whether he does or not is irrelevant, we should be expecting him to. And secondly, my Gengar is not actually one-hit KOing anything at the moment. But What we can do is put both Shaman and Hooper, especially with Hooper having the psychic weakness, we can put both Hooper and Shaman into one-hit KO range for the Gengar, get them, get 50 damage on, get them down to 70 HP, and at that stage, Kyle can actually win the game by ignoring the Manectrics, ignoring the Regice, and just using Lysandra 3 times to get the win. Not an ideal play by any stretch of the imagination, but at least in this game he looks to have an out to winning. In the previous game I couldn't see a route to him winning. In this game I can. In this game I do see that Kyle can just basically use Lysander to get a whole bunch of cheeky prizes. Now, what he needs to do here is get an energy on the Wobbuffet. He can get the KO with the Wobbuffet here, and he needs to. This is Wobbuffet Central. Wobbuffet, remember, does essentially the amount of damage on the defending Pokemon plus 10. Mega Manectric has 100 damage on it, so what Wobbuffet will actually do here is Wobbuffet will do 110 damage, putting Manectric up to... And it's for 2 energy, but one's colourless, so with the Dimension Valley, it comes down to a single energy cost. He can now retreat the Golbat and actually get the KO with Wobbuffet doing 110 damage to finish off the Mega Manectric. How beautiful is that? Now he's going to have to leave the Wobbuffet active to be KO'd, but it's a risk he can be willing to take at this stage. It's a risk worth taking. And then he only needs 2 Lysandra KOs. And so that could just be the 2 Shamans. So the AZ's coming down here. It needs to be on the active Golbat. It's got free retreat, but it's about to die, and now he can get the damage going with Golbat. So what he wants to do is focus on using those bats to drop damage on Shaman or Hooper, and then he can use Gengar or indeed Wobbuffet to take them out from the bench with Lysandras. And this has to be the way that Kyle wins. He might, he's gotten a little bit lucky in this game because William, he's drawn a lot of cards, he's used his Shamans, he doesn't have a Rough Seas out. Had he gotten a Rough Seas, even if Kyle had gotten another Dimension Valley, there wouldn't be enough damage for him to get the KO that turn. So last game William had the Rough Seas, this game he hasn't had it so much, and that's really hurting him here. So what Kyle can do is try and grab a couple of cheeky KOs on Manectrics and then finish with bench damage. It's not an amazing plan. It's not the world's greatest route to victory, but it's a route to victory. And, beggars, choosers, etc. You've got to just accept that, it's like I was talking about this week on my podcast, episode 170. Sometimes you need to look for a different route to victory. Against an awful lot of decks, Kyle can just use Gengar, switch into Wobbuffet, use Gengar, switch into Robo-Sub, etc. with the odd bat damage here and there. He can't do that in this game because Manectric has got high HP and can heal itself. Now, it looks like William's struggling a bit with the draw here. He doesn't have the stream of Manectrics that he had last game, and he doesn't have the Rough Seas he had. Kyle, although he had to get rid of his Muscle Bands early game, which of course is far from ideal, Kyle's doing well this game. If you compare the draws of the 2 players, Kyle is running a little bit hotter this game. I don't think William's particularly playing badly, but he needs to get that Regice out, and he needs to get it out quickly. He needs to get the Regice into the active. He needs to just start attacking with the Regice. And he really needs to heal that Mega Manectric, but we don't know how he's going to do so. I've not seen him play AZ yet. So, is it his turn at the moment? No, it's not. It's Kyle's turn. So, and now he's not quite, but that Manectric is getting very close to Wobbuffet territory. In fact, all it would take would be a Golbat or Crobat drop with Wobbuffet, and we would see a KO here. So there's a Crobat, and we know that Golbat was, we had it down it must have been down the previous turn. It's got a bit, no. I can't remember if it was damaged before or not, but it's been down a turn anyway. Now we're set up for a Wobbuffet play. Crobat's got free retreat. Wobbuffet with a single energy. The Dimension Valley is still in play. Wobbuffet with one it doesn't look like he's got it though. He's got a Super Scoop Up. No Shaman, unfortunately, but, you know. Oh, he could even maybe be going for a Gengar play here. Now, we do see a Birch coming down. This is going to be huge. I don't know how many Wobbuffets he plays. But if he's got any Wobbuffets left in deck, he shouldn't have benched that Robo-Sub. I don't know. I don't have his deck list in front of me, unfortunately. And the reason is very, very simple. If he draws a Wobbuffet energy here, he can free retreat the Crobat into a Wobbuffet energy. But of course, Kyle knows his deck better than we know his deck as casual observers. So we don't know if he's got a Wobbuffet left. Even if he does, it might be priced. But if he's got a Wobbuffet energy left in his deck, and we didn't see, but we'll see. Oh, it was a Tails. What does he draw? Ironically, he draws a Robo-Sub. He's got a... Yeah, he wouldn't have had it, because although he's got the Ultra Ball, he doesn't have the energy. So here, he's going to be doing 70, putting him on to 190 in total. So he is in bat range now. So Kyle here is going to want to retreat, and he's going to want to start attacking with the Regice, and just blocking with the Regice. Crobat can do 50, but Kyle hasn't been targeting down the Regice, and that could come back to hurt him. That could here's an interesting little play. VS Seeker for Lysander to bring up the Gengar. And see, I don't agree with this play. He should be retreating into the Regice. See, I think William's gotten a little flustered. It does happen with Junior sometimes. We can't hold it against him, but I think he's gotten just a little bit flustered here. If he was attacking with the Regice, we've got to think at this stage, we've seen Wobbuffets go down, and we've seen Kyle use a bunch of bats. You've got to think at this stage, if Kyle brings up the Regice... if William brings up the Regice, what can Kyle actually do? Now, the Regice is coming up, but it's just a turn too late. Remember that Mega Manectric has a free retreat. I think he's a turn or two late with his Regice here. But had he been able to draw in the... had he been able to draw into one of these... the stadiums earlier, maybe that would have helped. However, the one thing about Gengar is it doesn't do all that much damage, especially without Muscle Band. It only does 70 to a Shaman. So that's very, very useful here, because it's going to take two bat drops, a Crobat and a Golbat, just to put Shaman within range to be KO'd by a Gengar. So even a Lysandra and a KO with a Gengar is not all that likely, and it's going to take quite a bit to take down the Regice here. So, yeah... not hopeless by any stretch for William here. I do wish he'd retreated the Mega Manectric previously to put the Regice up, but it's easy to get flustered when you're on stream, when you're in a tournament environment and all that. And he might have had a very good reason that I just haven't thought of. Again, as always, I encourage you all to join in below in the comments. If you got anything to say about these games, stick it in the comments. I shall get there. Now he's going after the Hooper because he's realised he does 130 damage to Hooper with a Gengar. So if he can get the Hooper onto 40 damage, then he can use a Lysandra play to KO it with the Gengar. So that would be interesting. Oh, and it comes up maybe slightly early. It's probably going to be enough to get him the win because William's going to have to get him out of the active. Now, he could just attack with a bat here. Bat would do 100 damage for no energy. Here comes a Super Scoop Up. If he hits heads, that will be game. And it looks like he has... Oh, and he gets the Muscle Band back as well. So actually, he's going to do more than enough damage here. Because, he can drop the Crobat to get the KO, or he can get the KO just with the damage with the Muscle Band. So we see there it's not completely hopeless for Kyle. If Kyle gets a good enough start, and if William, I suppose, isn't able to draw into the rough seas on a very regular basis, that really opens it up for Kyle to start getting something rolling here. Now, the problem is we are about, and I'm cheating here because I've got the timer up in front of me, we're about almost 45 minutes into the game, and I believe Swiss, it was either 45 plus 3 or 50 plus 3. Either way, they've got just a couple of minutes here. And unless something very, very drastic happens, like, Kyle can't get anything other than a Zubat out on turn 1, we're just going to see a draw. But having said that, does that not seem like a really fair result in this game? First game, William played really well and won the game he probably should. Second game, I wasn't always terribly agreeing with his bat drops for Kyle, but they worked. And this is what we... And, and he thoroughly deserved to win game 2. And by the way, and you often hear me say this, I try and predict what the players could or should do. Just, I'm sitting there in game 2 and I'm saying, I don't think Kyle should drop the bats there. It's a trade-off. It's, who knows? Because, one of two things is going to happen. If Kyle draws into the rough seas, he heals off the bat damage, the bat drops were wasted, and I'm right. If he doesn't draw into the rough seas, then those bat damage actually allow Kyle to get the KO a turn or two earlier, giving William less time to get the rough seas, and I'm wrong. And I love that. This makes me kind of happy. So, who knows, quite frankly. And that's cool. I like this. I like that we have a game where, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. And that's awesome. It's pretty gosh darn good. So anyway, let's get into game 3 here. So good start from Kyle. He's got the energy down on the Gengar, which is going to allow him to retreat. I believe Gengar's got a retreat cost of 2. Mystery Energy reduces your retreat cost by 2. So that's going to allow the Gengar to free retreat into a hopefully Wobbuffet, because he's going to want to turn off William Shaman's. He's got a Zubat down straight away. He's got a Muscle Band to stick on the Gengar. And at this stage, it certainly looks a lot like William isn't playing any startling Megaphone to get rid of it. So it's safe being put on there. So the Shaman goes down. Again, if I was Kyle... Now... Again, there's a decision to be made here. I don't like putting the Dimension Valley down here because we can see it's going to be countered straight away. If I was Kyle, I'd want to not put down a stadium so that William puts down a stadium, because if you're both playing 4 stadiums, whoever puts down the first one loses. I think it's something I started saying earlier but got distracted. So Kyle puts down number 1. William counters. Kyle puts down number 2. Oh, Xerosic comes down to get rid of the energy. That's very interesting. And the stadium comes down. William's playing spoiler here. I like this. This is fun. It's going to want to get the Regice out of the active, though. Regice only wants to be active after it's attacked. Before it attacks, it's getting no protection. And eventually, Kyle's going to put down number 4. William's going to counter it. And then, I don't know, they're playing 4 stadiums each. Oh, but here we see the Sycamore's going to come down, and that's going to kill a stadium. However, the counter-argument to that, and it's a very strong counter-argument, playing Shaman, I need to draw cards. Putting down Dimension Valley allows me to draw 1 more card. And maybe he Sycamore's a stadium. Maybe he doesn't draw into the stadium. So, strong arguments both ways. I'm in favour of not playing the stadium, but if you really need those cards from Shaman, then, you might have to play that there stadium. Now, what I didn't ask the people to do this game, and this is very silly on my part, because I did at Nationals, I I didn't ask them to put up a sign when time was called, so we're going to have to guess. But we're 48 minutes in here pretty much, so not liking our chance of getting a completed game. There is a situation here where maybe Kyle doesn't get any other Pokemon down, and William doesn't get any more Pokemon down, and Kyle's able to drop some bats and kill it with a Wobbuffet. Would that work? No. See, even with a second Crobat drop here, a Wobbuffet comes down, would do 50, which would go up to 70 with a Muscle Band, which would unfortunately not quite get the KO. A Muscle-Banded Wobbuffet would put him on 110 here, but unfortunately that's not enough. Now, we could see a slight misplay from William in the previous turn. I don't know. I mean, he's not getting the Regice KO'd. But what we didn't see in the previous, he played the 0-6 to get rid of the Mystery Energy, which was a brilliant play. But then he was unable to then play the Sycamore to draw into more Pokemon like he needed to. Oh, here comes a Dimension Valley. But actually, not playing the Sycamore is now going to give William a real heads up in the Stadium War. So, I believe that's a draw. I think that was a draw right there. I could be wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that turned up as a draw. They ran out of time because certainly there was no KO there, and there was a Sycamore coming from William and blah, blah, blah. So, a draw, which seems like a fair result, to be honest with you, because, they both won one game. They both played quite well, and it's, kudos to Kyle there. It's an unfavourable matchup for him, as we discussed in Game 1. So, we've now shown you 2 rounds from this lovely tournament. I'm going to be back with round 3 very shortly, which apparently is going to show a Manectric Regice against a Fairy deck. Sounds like fun. And I can't remember who wins that, so this will be fun to have a look at. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. I will be back with more lovely Pokemon content in the very near future. Look after yourselves till next time. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.